and why that process is not necessary. And that's a simple one. I could explain that to you in about 2.5 minutes. But why would I? Go read the friggin' act. It's there. What's your take on it? My take on things is not always what everybody else's take is going to be on things. That's why I always like people to do that. Then people come back to me and say, hey, when I read that, I thought of this. And I'll go, shit, yeah, I kind of like the sound of that. You know? And then we get new ideas. So quit taking everybody's word at face value. Like, go read the stuff. I got no problem pointing everybody in the right direction, but then you gotta do a little bit of running yourself there, period. Right? I'm not gonna pick everybody up and drop them off at the end of the marathon.
I have to confess.
Yeah.
I'm a chiropractor 12 years.
Yeah.
What I did today for 2 hours, for the first time, at the bottom is read the chiropractic act.
Really?
Nice.
I'm confessing my hypocrisy, right? Because this is it's so inherent with all of us and everything we do.
Confess your sins, my son. I'm all ears.
Confession is good.
Say two hilarious, and we've been bred not to know.
I like that. Well, we've been bred just we want the simple, easy solution. We don't want to just read an act, that's sitting right there in front of us, anyways. And even if even if your argument is, well, it doesn't apply to me, well, you should be able to prove maybe in your own acts where it actually says it doesn't apply to you. So,
yeah, thanks to your lectures, a lot of people have been joining the site lately. I've been talking to a few of them lately. And the most common question I get, and this is, I know, probably a hard one to answer because everybody's different, everybody has their own goals. The most common question is, where do I start?
Yeah, where do I start? Well, I mean, you started now. People back in the day, I mean, when I first heard about being like a sovereign or a free man, I was like, oh, wow, like, well, how do I become a free man? It's like, well, the minute you state you are. I mean, that's something up here. That comes down to, what is that? There's the three, when you're redeemed, and it talks about that in the Bible too, when you're redeemed the first time in the spirit and the second time in the body. And I gotta say, it's actually, that's something I just recently kind of, see, these are all just my own theories I came up with, and I think about it when I went back 10 years ago, when my spiritual awakening happened. And you'll know when it happens because you get like this kind of, I call them epiphanies. You get like this euphoric feeling where you just go, holy shit, I don't believe it. And you get, seriously, you get a tingling up your arms, your hairs will stand up and you just go, fuck. And that's the start of your spiritual awakening. And a couple of years after that, you'll notice your body actually wants to start fighting you on that. Your body's like, no, we really like what's going on here kind of thing, eh? Like your body's almost got a mind of its own. It likes the fact that we got beat an awful lot less physically when you didn't start doing this kind of shit. So we really don't like what you're doing. You actually start to have a fight with your body. It's the weirdest thing. You'd think that, well, no, your mind is your body. Well, no, obviously it's not because it even says it's not in most religious texts, right? So then you start to have the battle between mind and body where you have to smart your body up and say, no, dude, we're in this together. And then you win that battle, and that's, I think, when you start to ultimately lose the fear. So when you win I think that has some real, okay, so that's where it all comes from. We'll get back to that point, is that's your path. Your path is, number one, your spiritual awakening, and then number two, your earthly awakening, your earthly body, if you want to call it that, your the victory of your mind over body, where your body stops rebelling against you because your body is scared that you're going to get beaten or killed or starve or something based on what this guy's doing, who ultimately is probably going to live forever anyways, right? So I guess if that's a weird and cryptic way of putting it, but your path starts the minute you got that seed in your brain. That's why I love that movie Inception, right? As soon as that seed is there, you know you're on the path of being a sovereign or free man. A sovereign or free man is whatever you say you are. It's not like, okay, here's this definition of sovereign. I just did that today. Okay, that's good.
It's like when you find your courage.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and even once that battle's over, I mean, it's not like that means you're sovereign. It's just the sovereign's a word for something that we all are always striving for throughout our lives. It's just free, to be free, to not be under the authority of another, to be sui juris. So.
Okay, I've been administrating this WFS for about 2 years now.
Okay.
And I've been approached by people who are calling this a mind virus.
I like that, a mind virus.
What's your opinion on?
Okay.
Because after you get the thought, the inception in your brain, there's no turning back. And the woman in the movie actually jumped off the building in real life because she didn't think that it was real.
Yeah, and that's actually, that is a valid point, because the problem is for a lot of us especially, is once you have this awakening, you couldn't go back to being normal no matter what anyways. It is a virus. It takes over. Absolutely it takes over. There's no question about that. The idea of freedom, and once the mouse realizes there's something outside of the cage, you'll never be happy being back in the cage.
Yeah, I think it depends on your metaphor for the virus. Viruses can be good or negative.
Yeah. So yeah, some people call it mind virus. I like calling it a seed, because a seed is what gives rise to life, obviously, right? So once that germinates and starts to take hold and everything grows in your head, and it does, your understanding grows more and more all the time. It's not. That's why I try to tell people, you got to read this stuff and you got to get your own mind around it. You actually just can't be told. You have to learn it and understand it, and that only happens in your own head after years of it's a road, it's a path. There's no other way to explain it. There's no
awakening.
It is. It's an awakening, and it always you're always awakening more. I don't think your mind ever stops expanding once the idea is opened and you start. I mean, people are always asking me, like, where are you coming up with this shit, or where are you reading this online? It's like, I'm not. I've read it. I've done it. Now at this point, it's just this. Taking all the information I've read over the years and the experience and just making my own shit up. And that's what sovereign and free men do, right? When you start writing your laws, living your life, and dictating how your life is going to go, that's what a free man and a sovereign is.
Amen.
So, yeah. Okay. So I wouldn't say virus, that's probably somebody's... Yeah.
Well, just as humans are a virus on the earth, or even trees and plant life are a virus on the earth.
Only certain people are viruses on the earth.
Well, we're not talking about internet trolls.
Yeah, well, that too, yeah. Yeah, I would say what's a virus by definition? It kind of consumes without...
Consumes itself.
Well, it consumes, but without producing anything of value for the organism that it lives off.
Right.
Right?
The organism's forced to evolve around the virus.
Yeah, there you go. So it's not like it's a symbiotic organism. We both get something off one another, because I still wouldn't even call government that, because everything the government provides for us, we gave to it, and we can live just fine without it altogether. Period. It's not like we're going to die tomorrow if government disappeared or went away. And that's not saying I even say they should disappear or go away. Just if they did what they originally created, what we originally created them to do.
To protect the people instead of the corporations.
They're supposed to be protecting us from these corporations, but now they're kind of enforcing corporate law against us. So we got to take that power back, and I think that's what we touched about earlier on there with what is our true power.
Yeah, I think it's probably more correct to call what we call government the government agency, because we are the government.
Yeah, that's correct. We are the government, so government agents. Yeah.
Government agency is what we call government.
And people always say, I get some questions about that. Well, what do you mean we are the government? It's like, well, technically, like, it's the same way as saying when, and I've heard this argument used, when I remember there was a story about a fellow who was going to court because he didn't have a fishing license or whatever. It was a fishing license, and he went to court, and he said, and the government said, the Crown said, well, you didn't have a license or whatever, and the guy said, well, who do the lakes and the fish belong to? And it doesn't matter whether it was the judge or the Crown said, well, it belongs to the people, kind of thing, right? And he said, well, if it belongs to, I'm probably missing part of the story, but either way, it came down to, well, if it belongs to the people and I'm one of the people, then why do I need a license to be, then bam, case dismissed. This is a simple argument, very simple argument, and it's completely correct, because, well, it belongs to the government. And then he said, well, who's the government? Is the government not the people? And they said, well, yes, of course the government's the people. So that was the end of that court case. And it's the same idea. And it's the same concept of, that's actually something I want to talk about tonight too, is we're having more of a philosophical, kind of theological thing tonight here, but just because of all the stuff that's going on in the UK right now, and all these debts and the stock market tanking, and everybody's just going crazy about all this shit that's irrelevant that's happening out there. All these debts and austerity, and the U.S. government is spending trillions, and they owe trillions upon trillions. The Canadian government's in debt $2 trillion, and the province of Manitoba is in debt $17.8 billion, literally 17.87 something billion dollars. I hope to add a few to that. Every nation on this planet is in debt, all these trillions of dollars. Okay, except 2. So who the fuck do they owe it all to? Is there like this creditor country out there? Like even China owes money to people. Right?
But who is it? Iceland and
Iran and North Korea are the only ones.
Yeah.
that's right, and they don't bill us under our bank.
Yeah, and I think up until recently it would have been Lebanon as well. So either way, if all these countries are in all this massive debt, how could they be? Who's it owed to?
It's all of the IMF and the IMF.
It's all owed to the people.
Yes. Yes.
Way.
So the debt is forgive my share. The debt is canceled. Because we owe it to ourselves.
The debt's all owed to us.
And Iceland has done it.
There you go.
Iceland went through it and took that exact position.
So that's what I mean. So if the government's trying to say to you, well, you have to pay all these taxes and pay all this money to the government because the government owes all this money. Well, here's a simple argument that I haven't heard anybody ever make, and I haven't had a chance to make it yet. And I made a kind of argument like that just on something else I'm doing that I won't get into right now. But you could just easily say, well, I'll tell you what, if you have to collect money off me so that the government has money so it can afford to pay off all these debts that are owed to the people, and I'm one of the people, how about I just forgive all the debts you owe me instead? Here, I'll sign a liability waiver. Send a liability waiver into the government. You don't owe me any money anymore. So quit fucking asking me for anything. Quit collecting from me to pay me. But I actually wouldn't do that. I like the fact they owe me money.
Yeah, it's nice to be a creditor.
Yeah, it's that you're a creditor. I think it's even better to say, well, you're not getting the money to pay me from me. So you better get a fucking tool belt. Or get a dishcloth. You're going to be working a long fucking time to pay this one off. Right? Take that position with them. Make that argument in court though. Say, well, if you're collecting taxes off me to pay off this debt that's owed to the people, and I'm one of the people, then is that even lawful to collect, to get me to pay a debt you owe to me? Well, no, of course that's not even lawful. Are they going to make that argument? You're probably never going to court again, ever, with Revenue Canada. If you just said that. How simple was that?
Yeah.
It's simple. It's simple. Don't I have to walk into? We were just talking about that before class too, about like all the ecclesiastical deed polls and the 3 alleged levels of jurisdiction in the court when you walk in there. Am I seriously going to make any of these arguments in court when the judge comes back after the 3rd time? Am I actually going to accuse the judge of being an agent of Satan, coming back in their 3rd capacity kind of thing? And no, like seriously, you're going off for a psych evaluation at that point. But these are all simple arguments that once you understand, I mean, like I say, I could answer everybody's questions in the world, well, if I had enough time. But you can come up with your own answers when you read this stuff. And that's all you have to do is ask yourself simple questions like, well, if every government owes money, who do they owe it to? The only answer could be the people. That's all that's left. We're the ones that they're actually generating all the money, the money from. So if they owe money, it's to us. Right? So once you come to that conclusion, it's like, well then, how is it legal or lawful for them to collect money off me to pay that debt? Then they're just collecting off of me to pay me and taking a cut for doing it. Well, that's the biggest fucking scam the world's ever known. So guess what? Maybe that should be in the form of an affidavit and put in your court file against CRA. Have them rebut that one. I'd love to see it. If somebody does that and they get a reply, I would love to see that one. Instead of making the name argument. Sorry, my throat's a little sore. I wasn't feeling well today, so I'm just making sounds that sound like words, but they're not. Okay, so there's that one while we're off ranting about certain things. Any other questions? Anybody else, like a common theme that seems to be coming up online that people are confused about?
People are overjoyed with your videos. They're like, I've never heard somebody explain it so well.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the reason for the mind virus being that people don't want their government to go to war with other countries for nefarious reasons? Like if we need oil,